What if I told you that Kashin Koji might have already screwed Konoha, even if everything goes right from here on out? Because right now, everyone's focused on one really big question after the last chapter. Will Kobu die? But I think that's the wrong question. The real question is, what happens if Kobu lives and he still says Konoha has to go? Because Kashin Koji, he didn't just gamble with Kobu's life. He gambled with perception, trust, and political legitimacy. In the Boruto era, that might be deadlier than any Otsutsuki or Ten-Tails out there. Today, in this newest Naruto Explained video, your OBC, your original Boruto chief, is going to be breaking down why Kashin Koji ordering Inojin to kill Kobu fits his consequentialist mindset, why Koji intentionally provoking Mamushi may have created a no-win scenario if Kobu lives, and how Kobu surviving could still lead to Konoha losing its funding, and why this mirrors the Hidden Sand Village's slow decay after the Fourth Ninja War. Most importantly, we're going to be exploring something that Boruto's never done before, which is what happens when avoiding a bad future ends up accidentally creating a worse one into Blue Vortex. So first, we have to go over Kashin Koji's logic, a consequentialist who has no room for mercy itself. So that's likely the biggest uncomfortable truth. From Kashin Koji's perspective, Kobu's already dead. Not physically, but just functionally in general. Kobu has uncovered something that he was never meant to know, that Shikamaru is helping Boruto. Kobu can't prove it, but he's getting the pieces together and he's gonna get enough circumstantial evidence to basically get Konoha's 8th Hokage removed. He knows that the Hokage is manipulating events behind the scenes, that Konoha's leadership is fractured and it is hiding something massive. To Kashin Koji, that discovery makes Kobu a fatal variable. So what does a consequentialist do in a situation like that? He doesn't ask, hey, is this the moral thing to do? He asks, does this preserve the timeline? Kashin Koji basically said, yeah, Kobu's got to go, so he gives Inojin an impossible order. Kill Kobu, not because Kashin Koji wants Inojin to be a murderer, but because he wants the problem resolved cleanly. And when Inojin refuses, Kashin Koji escalated. He deliberately attacked Mamushi, knowing exactly how Mamushi operates. Mamushi, he doesn't negotiate, he retaliates. He doesn't seek out conflict, but if he is attacked, he will respond in kind. This means that, hey, Inojin won't kill Kobu, but hey, I know that Mamushi will. Either way, Kobu's gonna die. That's not cruelty. That's Kashin Koji removing all alternate outcomes except for the one that he believes to be the most necessary. Again, he's a consequentialist, for better or for worse. And that's why I say no-win scenario. Why Kobu's death was supposed to be clean, and why it could be something that starts a bigger domino effect in the future. And I think that's a key detail that gets overlooked. Kashin Koji wanted Kobu's death to look external, not like a political assassination, not like a shinobi coup, but as a consequence of chaos. The villagers being attacked and Kobu either went crazy and jumped off of the top of the Hokage tower, or Mamushi killed him. The reason why is because a death like that, it keeps Konoha intact. No eyes are drawn on a Shikamaru for suspicious behavior. A messy survival, which at this point Kobu surviving would be messy, that brings a lot of nightmare scenarios that Kashin Koji does not want to come into fruition. If Kobu survives, everything runs a risk of falling apart. Let's say Boruto intervenes. Let's say Kobu lives. He's not gonna necessarily be in a situation where he's gonna be willing to look the other way from Konoha. He's gonna ask, how did I get here to the top of the Hokage tower? Why is Boruto saving me? If he goes back to the feudal lord, he's not gonna have theories. He's gonna have experiences. He's gonna have distrust. He's going to be wondering if the Hokage did something that put him in a situation that almost got him killed. He's going to be looking at the fact that Boruto is inside the village yet again, and Boruto remains at large, somebody that the feudal lord wants dead. He's going to have more reason to believe that the Hokage appears to be compromised, and that the village is clearly hiding something enormous. From Kobu's perspective, the conclusion, it is terrifyingly logical. Konoha cannot be trusted to police itself. And that's all that the feudal lord truly needs. Not proof, not certainty, just reasonable doubt itself. And Kobu, he doesn't have to accuse Shikamaru directly. Instead, he has enough to propose something that is just devastating. Defunding the village, oversight, shinobi budget cuts, control. And in a way, it's something that proves that survival can be worse than death itself. And that's why Kashin Koji's plan may truly backfire when you think about it. If Kobu dies, the narrative freezes, the investigation itself ends, responsibility disperses. If Kobu lives, the investigation itself, it will evolve. Suspicions will harden. Questions will be asked about the shinobi system itself. And when you think about real life, political systems don't respond with mercy. They respond with levers, funding, authority, surveillance. Konoha doesn't get executed, but instead, it'll be in a situation where it will get slowly suffocated. And this is where Boruto's optimism collides head on with reality itself, because it's just further setting up the Boruto versus Kashin Koji philosophy colliding. Boruto, as we know, doesn't believe that the future's fixed. He's a lot like his father in that regard. Boruto's also kind of in a way proven it. When Kashin Koji's 10 directions showed disaster, Boruto went off script. He told Kawaki, get those limiters move early, come help me fight Jura. Boruto stepped onto the battlefield and he changed the flow of events. And what happened? Well, a new timeline emerged, one that was pretty damn bad. Mamushi, he ended up killing Himawari in this timeline. He consumed Ada. Kashin Koji confirms Ada dies as a result of that. Boruto avoided one future, but he accidentally created another future. And that's the cost of defiance itself. Yet, because Boruto is the son of Naruto, because of everything that Naruto represented, because of everything that Sasuke as the opposite of Naruto represented, Boruto had to, because Boruto is a representation of both paths for Naruto and Sasuke. As much as I dislike some of Boruto's characteristics, I understand from a writing perspective, as a shonen protagonist, you have to present Boruto in a situation where he represents the best of what we should strive to be, even as Boruto himself is working to find his way. He has to go through his trials and tribulations a lot like his father did. You can't have Boruto in a situation where he just blindly accepts Kashin Koji's ideals of collateral damage. He's showing some level of restraint the same way that Sasuke did. There were lines in terms of what Orochimaru wanted Sasuke to do. Sasuke would not cross those lines. Even for as dark as Sasuke fell, until he found out the truth about Itachi, Sasuke still had a line he would not cross over to. And it was once he did cross into that line, he had a few anchors to pull him back, those anchors being Team 7. That is why I get it. You have to present Boruto in this way for this reason, in order to set the contrast. I think that's what's happening now, a contrast of Boruto and Koji. But that also opens up the door for us to flip the scenario. What happens when Kashin Koji tries to prevent disaster, and that prevention creates another disaster as a result? What happens when a vision fails and the consequences don't disappear but instead get worse? Kashin Koji believes in containment. Boruto believes in intervention, but neither controls how the systems themselves end up reacting. The system in this case being the ninja world. Koji assumes if Kobu dies, the problem ends. He may be wrong, he may be right. But if Kobu does survive and still ends up condemning Konoha and still calls for Shikamaru to be removed, then Koji's attempt to control, it becomes a catalyst for collapse. Not through bloodshed, but instead because of political tampering. And politics in Naruto, it's always been deadlier than war if you know the history. And those guys who have seen the After Naruto Shippuden playlist, in particular the videos dealing with Gaara Hiden, Sansu Mirage, you know that we saw something like this with the Hidden Sand Village. And it's very fitting given that the Hidden Sand Village, their feudal lord, was basically what drove Gaara's father to work with Orochimaru, because he cut the Sand Village's budget. This could be history repeating itself. So let's look at the historical mirror here. We've seen this before. After the Fourth Ninja War, the Land of Wind's feudal lord, he made a cold calculation. Hey, there's no more enemies now. There's no more war with the 5 major nations, no more immediate threat. So what, there's some smaller nations out there. They don't want the smoke with a big nation. So he asked the question, why are we still paying so much for a shinobi village? So he cut the budget. Hospitals fell way behind in funding. Infrastructure projects, they were stalling out. Technology lag. Gaara was struggling to get funding to get care for the baby boom after the war. He needed funding for those hospitals. He had rapid medical demands that weren't being met. There were technological gaps that were emerging as Konoha was surging ahead. Whereas Gaara's feudal lord was being cheap, Kakashi's feudal lord in the Land of Fire was willing to invest in Konoha, getting into that technology arms race. That is why you had Konoha have that technology boom, and when Naruto became Hokage, Naruto's basically given the keys to a Ferrari and told, hey dude, just don't crash this thing. The Hidden Sand Village, it didn't necessarily collapse, but it was left behind. And that's exactly what could happen with Konoha if funding gets pulled now. The feudal lord's logic in the Land of Fire right now currently is a different era, but it's asking a similar question. We're now 19 years removed from the Fourth Ninja War. The Land of Fire's feudal lord is looking at the fact that the 7th Hokage is dead. There's a rogue ninja who is supposed to be killed off for the murder of Naruto, yet he's been in and out of the village. Now there might be a compromised leadership structure, a village that keeps failing to contain its own threats. And if Kobu makes it out of this alive, it could reinforce that doubt. And so the question ultimately becomes, do shinobi villages still deserve this level of autonomy? That question alone, when you think about it, is lethal, because Konoha's power has always rested on trust. When you lose that, the village, it doesn't fall, but it does erode when you think about it. And that's the irony of Kashin Koji's failure when you think about it. It's very tragic when you just really sit down and just look at everything that could fall in terms of dominoes. Kashin Koji believes that emotional actors like Boruto, led by their thoughts and feelings, they're dangerous, they're too hopeful, they're too impulsive, they're too human. But in trying to eliminate uncertainty, Koji may have created the worst possible outcome: a living witness, a suspicious feudal lord, a defunded Hokage if Shikamaru stays in power, and as a result, a weakened village that might not be able to help him when it comes to being able to take down Jura. It wouldn't be destroyed, but instead it will be exposed, and exposure leads to a potential collapse in the future. It leads to a future that nobody truly wanted. So whether or not Kobu lives or dies, Konoha may already be doomed. Not by an Otsutsuki, not by a Shinju, not by Boruto, but by the Consequentialist and Kashin Koji trying to take control of fate itself. I think the idea of playing with the fact that there's more political drama, that Konoha could get funding cut out, I think that's something that should be explored by this story. If you're a long-term viewer of the channel, you know that I have forever said that one of the things that I have longed for, and I am enjoying that we're getting into Blue Vortex, is more of the political side of the ninja world. It's one thing that I did wish that Naruto's manga, and from what I know about the anime didn't really touch on it. I really wish that more of the politics of the Naruto universe were explored, because when you read all the supplemental materials, from the guidebooks to the fan books to the anime books to the light novels, there's so much rich information that makes you understand just how truly complex the ninja world is. And we're starting to see elements from all these different things implemented into Two Blue Vortex in subtle ways. It's one of the reasons why I do appreciate what Ikimoto's done, because it is a wink and a nod if you know what he's referring to. When you get to certain pages, he's building on various things from the multiple other source materials. I think that that is a better route. You can balance it with the action, which is what we're doing. Because when you really think about it, in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, we've already seen that defying the future can save lives, and that obeying the future in terms of being willing to write off different lives does come with consequences. But we've never seen what happens when you try to change the future and you fail at doing so. We haven't seen the disaster that comes from that. That pendulum has to swing one way back and forth. It has to keep swinging back and forth before you can eventually hit into the middle. Sometimes the future that you want to prevent was potentially the only future that was holding things together. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, clicking on the left to check out this new Naruto Explained video, or click here on the right to check out videos from other two anime channels where I talk about non-Naruto anime and manga.